But the other part of the book, the other odd part of the book was Colin wanted me to write it to make the point that it's the right that's the real cancel culture. And of course, I end up writing that the real problem is the left, Colin.
Right.
It's not the right. I mean, obviously, there's cancel culture on the right. But the point is, the cancel culture on the right, or the mainstream, the establishment, whatever you want to call it, for a person of the left, that's a given.
Right.
That's part of what it means to be in the left. You're going to be the true left. You're going to be marginalized. You're going to be ignored. That's the history of the left. You know, nobody, I think, would seriously dispute that the foremost intellectual of the second half of the 20th century was Noam Chomsky. Chomsky wrote literally scores of books on politics. You never saw him on the talk show, a talking head show. It was unthinkable. You'd never see him in the New York Times. You'd never see him after the 1960s. You'd never see him in the New York Review of Books. He was a non-person. Now, you can be angry at that. You can be indignant at that. You can want to protest that, but you're not surprised. That's how the system works.
Right.
What changed with the cancel culture was that it now also started to engage in fair, I should say, what changed was on the left, they start to not just engage in fairly promiscuous canceling of people, but there was a whole kind of justification for it, which not entirely, one has to be careful about this, not entirely, but in certain respects, I think was unprecedented. But there are aspects which, at least a part of the left that I came to identify with, the cancel culture clearly conflicted with it. And that to me was the problem. The problem was not the right, not because the right isn't a problem. Of course it's a problem. Not just the right, the mainstream. I mean, when I talk about people who were canceled, people like Noam Chomsky, they weren't, canceled by the John Birch Society. They were canceled by the New York Times, the whole liberal press. They were canceled by. So of course that's a problem. But I'm speaking as a person of the left. And for me, the problem really begins when the left itself starts engaging in a culture which we decry when it's practiced by liberals and people further to the right. So we criticize that culture, but now we're internalizing its norms, the right to decide what's true, the right to repress what is offensive. Those values to me are important, the values of truth and liberty of speech. And when it started to appear in the left, I took strong exception to it, both because it's repressive, but less because it's repressive than because it preempts a serious pursuit of truth. Too many taboos, too many fences, and the pursuit of truth becomes subordinate to the defense of what feels good. Became a feel-good priority over whether something is true or not.